Hey everyone, Doug Smaldino. Today is Thursday, May 5th. Happy Cinco de Mayo to everyone out there. Hey guys, I've been doing several of these videos lately, and basically the purpose of them is I just want to get good financial information and mortgage information out to a lot of our buyers, our pre-approved buyers, our people that are would-be home buyers, and our real estate professional partners. So, there's a lot of stuff in the news right now about mortgage interest rates. Yesterday, for example, was a little bit of a little bit of a shakeup, so to speak, although it was totally expected. What happened was the Federal Reserve raised the federal discount rate by 0.5%. Now, 0.5% is a lot, okay? But let's bring it in here and let's peel the onion back and figure out what this all means. So basically, when the Federal Reserve, you talk about quote unquote raising rates, what that means is the Federal Reserve, the central bank of the United States, increases the rates at which the Federal Reserve, lends to member banks. Now, who's their member banks? Big household names: Chase Bank, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and several other big bank names. Okay, that's the rate at which they lend. Now, when they increase the rate, what do the banks do? What does Wells and B of A and all the other gazillion banks out there do? Well, they raise rates by the same amount. So the rate usually that the larger banks use, you might be familiar with it, heard the term, the prime rate. That's the prime rate is the rate at which banks lend to consumers and their best customers. So basically, if the Federal Reserve raises the federal funds rate by 0.5%, then the banks will raise their prime rate by 0.5%, and it'll hit the consumer pocketbooks. Now, the purpose of it, let's talk about the purpose of it real quick. Why would the Federal Reserve do that? Do they need the money? No. Their job is to regulate the money supply and interest rates and ensure that the economy doesn't get overheated. So you've also heard in the news lately tons of talk about inflation. Now what is inflation? Basically, it means the cost of goods is going up. So you see it at the gas pump, you see it in the grocery store, you see it in the rent payments you make. The consumer price index is basically a market basket of, I think, 30 or 50 different items that they track every month, and the price changes. So if it goes up, it affects the index, i.e. inflation. That's what sets off the concern that we don't want prices to go nuts. And so the Federal Reserve controls these prices through interest rate hikes. Why does that work? Well, businesses, if they're going to have to borrow money to stimulate growth, hire people, buy more inventory, or this or that, more supplies, they're going to think like, hey, the money's cheap right now. But then you tell them like, well, it was 1% or 2% last year, now it's 4% and going to 5%. Then businesses start to think twice and say, hey, maybe we don't need to bring on these half a dozen employees. Maybe we don't need to buy so much inventory. Maybe we don't need to expand into another state. You get it? That's the things that slow things down, and then the prices will drop, But, this is a very interesting times we live in. A lot of this is COVID still, the aftermath of COVID, government spending money like a drunken sailor to stimulate the economy. But here's the bottom line. The other question is like, okay, so that's why it happens. Now the question is, what does this affect? The Fed raised rates. What does it mean? What does it affect? Basically, it affects loans that the banks lend, like I said, which are namely credit cards, auto loans, consumer debt, consumer lines of credit, and other miscellaneous loans, and business lines of credit. It does, with respect to real estate, it only affects home equity lines of credit. Also known as a HELOC, home equity line of credit. Okay, now, notice I did not say mortgages. Why? Why didn't I say mortgages? Isn't that an interest rate? You bet it is. Well, mortgage rates are affected by one thing only, and that's the price of the mortgage-backed security, the mortgage-backed securities market. Now, there is some definitely correlation between the mortgage-backed security interest rate, or price rather, and the interest rate. So the interest rates do kind of have a correlation, but not necessarily. Like yesterday, when the Federal Reserve raised the rates 0.5%, mortgage rates were down. So that's like two completely different things. Bottom line is, this is information that should be digested. It's not a time to panic, definitely not a time to hold off purchasing your real estate. Look, I get it. Interest rates are a little bit higher now. We're back to where we were, I believe, in 2010. This is where the rates were in 2010. Still historically low, we're just not at the crazy low limit rates that they have been during the pandemic. So my thought is we might see mortgage rates go up a little higher. They're currently in the 5% range. They're probably going to go a little bit higher, but if you can afford the payment, I still say get in, because don't expect there to be some big, huge bubble that's going to burst, and there's going to be massive foreclosure, a wave of foreclosures on the market. Just not going to happen. This is not 2008, where there were people in adjustable rate mortgages that couldn't wait to get out or just were walking away from their properties left and right. The sellers right now are coming off of loans in the 2s and 3s. So, if worst case scenario they can't sell it, they're not going to walk away from it. There's going to be potentially a correction, but not a bubble bursting. Okay, so and I say a potential correction because I'm not even sure there's going to be a correction, at least in some markets. East side of LA, man, I don't know. I think if rates hit 10% or 10% plus, maybe you'd see it at that point. But that's a long, hard pill to swallow, and I just don't see that happening. So anyway, long story short, don't get worked up. Don't listen to quote-unquote experts. You got the expert right here. Just call me if you have any questions. Happy to help. Let's make it a great day. Go take advantage of in this beautiful real estate market we have. Take advantage of these amazing tax benefits are all still intact. It's never been a better time to buy. Call me. Cheers, everybody.